All right, so let's look at resilience. Now, there's no doubt that the last several years has brought an increase in global stress. According to the World Health Organization, burnout is an occupational phenomenon which has been shown to increase the risk of suicide and is on the rise around the globe. In Gallup's most recent 2023 State of the Global Workforce report, it was found that stress has reached an all-time high for the second year in a row. The report indicates that 44% of employees reported high daily stress levels, up nearly 10 percentage points from a decade prior. At the same time, the idea of grit has taken off since Angela Lee Duckworth's 2016 New York Best Time seller, Grit, The Power of Passion and Perseverance, has hit the shelves. Now, Duckworth also has a TED Talk on the topic, which has received 13 million views since being posted to YouTube in 2013. But this video is not about grit. This video is about resilience. So let's unpackage it. So what is resilience? And is it the same thing as grit? Do calls for employee resilience let the employer off the hook? Or is there a role for organizations to play in increasing employee resilience? Well, let's take a look at a few definitions first and clarify why resilience is not the same thing as grit. According to Duckworth, grit is simply passion and perseverance over a long duration directed towards some long-term goal. And here's what Duckworth says in her TED Talk about grit. Grit is more predictive of success than IQ. She says that you can achieve your goals if you work long and hard enough. She reports that studies that she conducted on military academy cadets, child national spelling bee champions, rookie teachers, and salespeople all demonstrated that far and above any other factor, it was grit that predicted long-term success. It wasn't social intelligence, it wasn't IQ, but grit. Grit, she says, is about having stamina, sticking to your future, and working really, really hard to make that future a reality. All of this, by the way, in the midst of all-time high global stress. Now, Duckworth describes grit as living life like a marathon, not like a sprint. She says that grittier kids in the Chicago school system were more likely to graduate, even when other factors were controlled for, such as family income, standardized achievement tests, and how safe kids felt at school. And that makes a whole lot of sense intuitively. To have passion and perseverance has more to do with whether or not you're successful than family income. Because even if you come from a low-income family, if you have enough passion and enough perseverance, you can achieve your goals. More to do than standardized achievement testing, because even if you didn't rate that high on standardized achievement tests, if you had enough passion and you had enough perseverance, you can achieve your goals. And it makes sense that it had a better predictive power than how safe kids felt at school. And I'm not really even sure how that's a relevant factor, but I suppose kids who don't feel safe at school maybe are at a higher risk of dropout. That's fair. That's a fair assertion. But according to Duckworth, it's more important that kids are just stick to it and push through even if they don't feel safe in school, and that would be more predictive of their graduation and their success. So that's fine and that's fair. Now, I will say from the literature on grit, scholars generally agree with Duckworth that grit really is about passion and perseverance towards some long-term goal. Grit is about developing goal-directed passions, driving you forward through adversity, not in the absence of adversity, but driving you through the adversity. And so let's sit on that for a moment. If grit is a passion, driving you through adversity, then let's imagine adversity like a brick wall. Let's imagine adversity like a brick wall, slowing you down or abruptly halting your forward momentum. So we know from Newton's first law of motion that an object in motion will remain in motion at a constant velocity until acted on by an equal and an opposite force. And so here you are. You've built consistent forward momentum in your life. And you have some external force come along, whether it's a stressor or whether it's life adversity. And it's slowed you down, either gradually, like the weights on the ankles of a runner, or like a brick wall abruptly halting any forward motion. And grit is about facing those weights and walls and mustering up all the glycogen levels in every muscle fiber of your body to push through and explosively bust through those walls. You must exert an equal and opposite force on that which slows you down, preventing forward motion. That is grit. It's perseverance in the muck, in the mire, in the trenches. Just keep going. That's grit. Now, interestingly, Duckworth concludes her TED Talk by admitting that we have no clue how to build or how to foster or how to increase grit. She says additional research is needed on this fact. That's grit. Resilience, on the other hand, it's very well established in the research literature and has been for many years. So I suppose we ought to define what exactly resilience is. According to the scholarly research, resilience is defined as, and I'll put it on the screen, positive characteristics and individual resources, coherent, stable, supportive family environment, and a social network that supports and reinforces adaptive coping. It's the capacity for perseverance that leads to recovering from and adapting to major stressors. So while grit requires perseverance and passion, it's resilience that allows and leads to and allows for perseverance. It's the capacity for perseverance. It's the behavioral capacity to leverage work resources in order to ensure continual adaptation, well-being, and growth at work to support the organization and supported by the organization. So in reality, we actually know a whole lot about resilience, and we can test for it, and we can measure it. There's an assessment called the RSA. It's the Resilience Scale for Adults. And I'll give you a quick summary on this. I know you don't really care that much about what the scale is, but I want to show you that this is a very well-established construct. The Resilience Scale for Adults, and I'm going to put some notes here to help on the screen. It consists of 33 items measuring personal strength and perceptions of self, personal strength and perceptions of the future, structural style, social competence, family cohesion, and social resources. This assessment scale is a 5-point semantic differential scale with a pot that, it's your agree, very much agree, neutral, disagree, very much disagree, right? 1 to 5 rating it, with a score ranging from 0 to 4. Total scores on the scale can range from 0, right? If you put zeros down all the whole column, to 165, okay? Personal strength and perceptions of self is defined as an individual's perception of their own competence and coping skills. Okay, perception of future is a variable closely related to conscientiousness. Okay, structural style is a measure of how a person structures their time and their workload. Okay. Social competence is a measure of the combined personality characteristics such as extroversion and agreeableness. And lastly, family cohesion is defined as the presence of a stable and supportive family that might support coping. Okay. Social resources is a measure of extra-familial support, social support available through friends and acquaintances. Okay, so all of that to say, suffice it to say, we know more than just a little bit about resilience and how to foster it. Okay, so intuitively on the face of things, grit and resilience, I mean, they sound similar, but resilience is so much different and far more robust a construct than grit. Well, grit has you kicking it into high gear, foot to the floor, pedal to the metal, blasting into the wall. It's resilience that allows you to bounce back when you take the beating. Grit leads you headstrong into harm, but it's resilience that enables you to respond and to keep responding when the stress and adversity comes. And it will come. Grit is all about the internal factors of the individual. Passion, that's internal. Okay. Either you have passion or you don't. Perseverance, that's internal. Either you have perseverance or you don't. You keep going or you quit. When challenges come, and they come to us all, those who stagger, those who stumble, those who fall, and those who struggle to get back up in the face of adversity, if we look at grit, we can simply conclude that they simply were not strong enough. In other words, grit blames the victim. They were not strong enough. When we've got students failing out and they're under undue stress, more than they can deal with, and they're failing out, or they're even worse, leading to increased rates of suicide, we say they just weren't strong enough. We would never say that about the victim. Well, we do when we think the solution is grit. When we have employees who leave the organization and we have increased turnover, we would say, well, I guess they just weren't the right fit. Perhaps it was all their fault if we look at the only solution being grit. They weren't strong enough. They weren't tough enough. They did not have a thick enough skin. Now, do you know what the result of this sort of mentality is? This set of beliefs of grit, inherent to grit, it lets everybody else off the hook. This set of beliefs lets everybody else off the hook. See, as a leader, as your leader, I cannot make you more passionate. I can inspire passion, but I cannot make you more passionate. I cannot make you more passionate. As a leader, as your leader, I cannot enforce perseverance. Perseverance is a function of motivation. And I can motivate, but I can't force perseverance, and that's an entirely different video on motivation. Okay? But I can't mandate, I can't force perseverance. I can encourage it, but I can't force it. Ultimately, it's not within my control. I can't increase personal levels of grit for my team members. So that's okay. That means that I'm off the hook. When there's increased turnover, when there's increased self-harm, when there's school dropouts, I'm off the hook. They just weren't tough enough. All right? As a member of my team, if we only look at grit, that means as a member of my team, your struggles are your struggles. But when we look at resilience, the entire picture changes. We have to examine the scientific literature to find only 42% of the factors that contribute to individual resilience are internal and within the control of the individual. 42%. 11% of the contributing factors fall outside of the individual and the organization's control. And they're things that you either have or you don't, and it's the cards that you're dealt. Things like personality, things like a cohesive family unit. And that means that 47% of the factors that contribute to employee resilience are within the direct control of the organization organization. 47% of the contributing factors can be actually created and fostered by the organization. And this means that as the leader, if you're on my team, your adversity, your struggles, your challenges are at least 47% my responsibility. That is, of course, if I've got a vested interest in your success. So let's take a look at the factors that are internal to the individual, which factors are external to the individual, and how, as a leader, can you take steps to increase resilience of your team. So let's go through the individual factors, the factors that are internal to the individual. And these are the factors that the organization can't force. The organization can't change. It really is up to the individual to take action steps to increase their resilience. And this includes things like self-awareness. You can increase your self-awareness, but you have to increase your self-awareness. Things like reflection. You can take time for personal self-reflection, but you have to take the time for self-reflection. Personal development. You can invest in your personal development, but you have to invest in your personal development. The organization can set up a framework and a structure to empower you, to equip you for personal development, but at the end of the day, nobody can do the learning for you. You have to do it. Positive thinking. Increasing your social skills. Planning of your time. Plan and structure your time in a way that is controlled, in a way that's not helter-skelter, in a way that increases your resilience, not your stress. Finding meaning and purpose in the work. Now you're going to see some of these factors are internal to the individual, and they're also external and can be influenced and supported by the organization. Finding meaning and purpose in the work. We're in the personal column. Things that are internal to the person. Finding meaning and purpose in the work. Foster positive emotion. Be intentional with your emotion. Be intentional about seeking things that engage in positive emotion. Emotional intelligence. You can increase your emotional intelligence. You can move the needle personally on that. Humor. Engage in and seek out humor. It has been shown to increase personal resilience. Physical activity. Nobody can force you, to get physically active. Nobody can mandate that, but getting physically active. Sleep. Same thing. It's got to be internal to the individual. It is up to you. It's in the control of the individual. Get good sleep. Good, proper sleep hygiene. Self-efficacy, again, internal to the individual. Self-efficacy is an individual's confidence in their own ability. Okay? If you lack confidence in your ability, well, that's fine. Seek opportunities to take on challenging work, succeed in it, and then realize, okay, I am capable, I can do this. That's self-efficacy. Hope, persevering towards success, overcoming challenges. Well, take on things that are a little bit challenging. Persevere toward it. And the last one, internal to the individual, is relaxation. Relaxation. Nobody can force you to relax, right? Relaxation and stress management techniques. Nobody can force you to do that. You've got to take the lead role in your own relaxation. Those are the factors. Those are I think I said 42 factors that are internal to the individual, contributing factors to resilience. Well, then we have the factors that are external to the individual, factors that are within the control of the organization. And these are things like access to spirituality, access to health care, access to respite care, access to education, leisure time. Can the organization create and structure leisure time into the day? Take your breaks, go for a walk, right? Leisure time to reset, to refresh. Okay. What else do we have here? We've got relaxing activities unrelated to the work. Again, if you're getting, your work requires 24. The work that you do requires 23 hours in a day to do it. Well, I mean, by design, you don't have time for leisure activity, right? So it's how is the work created? How is the work designed and structured? Okay. Goal efficacy, that is within the purview of the organization, of the supervisor and the leader. Assign goals that your team can actually manage. Maybe it's a stretch goal, but make sure that it's actually manageable and achievable. Okay, meaning and purpose. Know your team members and assign work that is going to resonate with them, that they are going to be easily able to find meaning and purpose in that work. Assign them challenges, opportunities, assign them projects that are going to be meaningful and resonate with them. Control over the job design. When an individual has control over their job design, that has been found to increase increase levels of resilience. And so we can structure the work, we can assign the work, we can assign tasks and projects and work in a way that gives a certain level of autonomy to the individual. We can do that as the organization, as the leader, and by doing so, we can increase the levels of personal resilience. Similarly, control over task and stressors. Give control over the task. Are you more concerned with what is done and when it's done, or are you more concerned with how it's done? Like, if it reaches the same end result, maybe it doesn't necessarily matter how it's done. Of course, all of this is job and domain specific. I really do care that my spinal surgeon follows a set standardized procedure and doesn't go, well, hey, as long as the spinal surgery is done, it doesn't really matter how I got to the finish line, right? Of course, this is domain specific. Understand that. Okay, these are just things that we can do as an organization that will help foster employee resilience. So control over the job design, control over the task, and certain inherent stressors. Creating a learning environment that has been found to impact employee resilience. Do we create and foster a team environment where mistakes are avoided at all costs because, oh my goodness, I'm really going to catch it for this? Or have we fostered a learning environment where mistakes are an acceptable and anticipated step in the learning development? Are we afraid to make mistakes? Are we fearful of mistakes? Or do we accept them as a necessary step in learning? Okay, similarly, training on management skills, training on job skills, training on emotional intelligence. We can do that. We can create that. That's in the 47% of the factors that are in the purview of the organization. Okay, coworker support, creating a team that really fosters coworker support. You know, where your team is shoulder to shoulder, boulder to boulder, you know you can rely on each other. Okay. Mental health awareness. Are you pushing mental health awareness? Is that a priority? Including the risks, the precipitating factors, and the outcomes of mental health. You can, if you do that and you do it well, you can increase employee resilience. Belief that change is natural. How do you and your team view change? Do you see it as, oh, well, here we go again, another change coming down the pipeline? Or do you go, yeah, well, of course, things change. Nothing remains, the same, day after day, year after year, month after month, right? Decade after decade, things change. That's normal. And so as a team, our culture is, well, we adapt readily and we adapt well. Okay. Belief that change is natural. Does the employee perceive that a challenge that comes along their way, do they perceive it as it's routine? I mean, we know this is just part and parcel of the job. Or do they see the challenge as, oh my gosh, this is my last ditch effort to prove myself before I'm out the door? Okay. Go ahead and Google something for me. Google theory of cognitive appraisal. Richard Lazarus, theory of cognitive appraisal. And it really deals with whether a stressor is a threat or whether a stressor is a motivating factor. Okay, one of the contributors there is, does the individual think that the challenge is routine, or do they see it as, oh my gosh, I'm really got to prove myself, my neck is on the line here? Okay. Organizational resources. Does your team member have adequate time and resources to meet these challenges that come, that are normal, that are a normal part of change? And again, this goes with the theory of cognitive appraisal. You can go and Google that sometime if you're interested in more information on that. Okay, so do we believe that change is normal? Do we have the relevant and adequate requisite resources to deal with the change? So there are a handful of factors that contribute to employee resilience that are within the purview and the control of the individual that we can't change as an organization or as the team leader. And there's a handful of factors that you can change, right? We have currently burnout and stress at an all-time high. And in the midst of all of this, we're getting this messaging that, well, people just need to be gritty. You need to be tougher. You need to be stronger. That's half the picture. What we really need as individuals and as teams is to foster an environment where resilience supports the adapting and the continually adapting to challenges that come our way, so we can go from strength to strength to strength, from win to win to win, from victory to victory to victory, because none of us can do this alone. None of us can do this alone, and it really does fall to us, the leaders, to ensure that we're creating environments and cultures within our teams where people can do their best work. All right? So there we go. Hope that helps. Follow me for more.